G'day YouTube, warbles on a lot here. Look at that, blue sky day, bugger all wind, plenty of sunlight. Nine amps, and we're already got almost full batteries. And the decision has been made that I am going to take the push bike down to Coffs Harbour. For the first 2 or 3 weeks of my treatment, I'm expected to be fit enough to ride it. And for the rest of the treatment, the challenge in my mind will be staying sufficiently active as to keep the batteries charged by riding it anyway. So I was about to wash it today before putting it in the back of my daughter's car and taking it down to the coast, which is happening on Sunday. And it just occurred to me that with a day like today, I might as well go for a ride. And then I looked in the logbook and it turns out that this battery hasn't been used for 9 weeks. So I agree with the kookaburras. I have every excuse to take it for a ride rather than do something else that I probably should be doing, like preparing more firewood or brush cutting the area where the flat pack kit house is supposed to arrive next week. I'm going to go for a bit of an indulgent ride. Okay. Nearly forgot to turn the lights on. There's no point having $300 worth of lights if you don't bloody well use them. Just on the off chance that somebody doesn't see the lime green skid lid when I'm out on the bitumen. So anyway, I had a particularly good day yesterday. Got in 20 minutes chainsawing, getting a tree set up for my daughter so she doesn't run out of wood immediately when I go down to the coast. I think I probably got her about a tonne. Took an hour and 20 minutes to cut the bloody thing up. That's engine time. I'm glad I brought the gloves this time. And then I went over to Inverell for the first time in about, I don't know, 15 years or something. When my son was a teenager and we were doing a lot of radio control model flying. And there was a hobby shop in Inverell. We used to go over there. When he was about, I don't know, 12 or 13, we went over there to a bit of a shindig at the, what was then the Inverell Transport Museum. Put together largely by a bloke called Ron Thorpe, who had what they call Inverell East Airport, little private airport. Anybody could go there if they wanted to pay landing fees. They could rent a corner of his hangar and stuff, but basically he was a farmer who wanted an airstrip, so he built an airport, tried to run it at break even. And he was a car nut. Bit of a mate of my father's, actually. Always got along with him pretty well. Don't know whether he's still alive. He might be, he might not be. Haven't seen him for about 15 bloody years either. So anyway, being as I was in Inverell to attend an audiology consultation, so they could get a baseline of how good or bad my hearing is. Basically pretty good, except for the usual dip in responsiveness around 3000 hertz, typical of people who've listened to a lot of loud noises or explosions. My time as a rifle team captain probably accounts for some of that. My time as a crazy redneck player with ex-military assault rifles, semi-automatic military rifles anyway, probably accounts for more of that, because I didn't tend to use hearing protection back in them days. And there's, you know, at least 1,000 hours of chainsawing and brush cutting and whipper snipping, and probably 300 hours of that was done without bloody hearing protection too. So anyway, having had a pretty good time at the audiologist, a nice little cup of coffee in the main street of Inverell while waiting for the appointment time. I went and found the Tourist Information Centre and got a map to tell me where to go to find what I was thinking of as the Inverell Transport Museum, because I knew it had moved. And I'd heard that they'd got a bit of a grant of money to build themselves a fancy new shed. I had no idea they'd renamed themselves as the National Transportation Museum. Makes it much more bloody upmarket, doesn't it? I sort of sussed out the lay of the place. I wandered in. I had a fair idea they still had the Scout hanging up there, but I wasn't really certain. And when I asked them whether they had a Skycraft Scout on display, the woman looked at me and she said, "A what?" And I said, "A Skycraft Scout. It's an aeroplane." And she looked at me and she looked at the other pole there and she said, "That's the red one, isn't it?" And I said, yeah, it's red. Last time I saw it, it looked like this, and I pulled my wallet out, see, and showed her the photo. I gotta say, some eyebrows were raised. It was not sort of what they were expecting to walk in at 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Grey-bearded old fart in his 60s, asking questions about their primitive old ultralight. So she started quizzing me then. Another fella come over and he's listening in. And after she asked me whether I'd had how much to do with it, and I confessed to being its third owner and the last person to have flown it. And this fella decided to fact check me. And he says, "So who did you sell it to?" I said, "I never sold it, I was in Sydney. My father sold it to a bloke called Terry Griffey, the son of the bicyclist who set up the Grafton to Inverell bicycle race." Which was the correct answer. So, having passed the test, I asked them how much they wanted to charge me to go in and have a look at it and walk around and make a YouTube video. Because last time I was over there, I think it cost me $5 or $10. And they let me in for nothing. I suppose I get a lot of people walking around making movies and videos there. So, yeah, I had my little wander around there. And then after that, I told them a few of my doings and set sail for home. And because when I was a kid, there was only a few windmills between Glen Innes and Inverell. Now there's literally hundreds of the bloody things. And when I was a kid, the biggest windmill was 24-foot diameter wind wheel, which is about 175 or 200 horsepower. That's given a 25 mile an hour wind. And now they're 3 friggin' megawatts. Which would be like 2,000 horsepower. I think, something like that. And in the town of Inverell, this will get uploaded after the windmill video, so it doesn't matter what I say about it. No foreshadowing here. In the town of Inverell, they've got some street lights operated by solar panels and windmills. So I started with windmills at Inverell and worked my way back to Glen Innes, taking video of the various examples of the state of the art. Bit of a high workload part of the track there. Yeah, and I'm sure there are people who are going to be horrified by the practice of driving with one hand and videoing with the other hand, and framing by sense of braille, basically knowing where the camera case is and where the lens is pointed by the feel of the case, keeping an eye on the road and filming out the bloody window on full telephoto 5 power, and still managing to see the wind turbines on the horizon. Think of it as like eating chili. It's an acquired taste, an acquired skill. It can be done if you know what you're doing and you want to do it anyway. At all times you have to be prepared to have fuck-ups in the video for the sake of staying in your lane, if that makes sense. And I think it does. I was going to go down to the railway station, but I really do have other shit to do, including washing this bike. So I probably should call a halt to this. But anyway, yeah, yesterday was a pretty good day. Today is a stunningly beautiful day, weather-wise, and I haven't fucked anything up yet, other than this self-indulgent ride. Then I'm going to clean the push bike, get it ready for the trip, then play around with some firewood. And then have a shower and go to town and do some shopping. Drop in on my son and his missus at their workshop. And go and have the Friday night feed for the last time before going down the hill. But at least I don't have to worry about this being the final push bike ride, because the theory is I will be playing with this as a diversional therapy exercise tool while mainlining cisplatin and getting my head cooked. I used to laugh at the staff at the chemist shop when I'd go in there to collect my mother's swags or supplies, give them the script and say, "Give me lots of your best drugs." And they'd laugh and I'd laugh. And I'd point out that little old ladies eat more pounds of drugs per week than any 5 drop-out junkies. And we'd both laugh. Went in there the other day with a script for codeine with 3 repeats, so I come out with 4 boxes of bloody codeine tablets to take away with me. The pharmacist at the Cancer Institute can't prescribe your normal medications, and seeing as I'm already on bloody pain relief, therefore I'll have to get that from my own GP. Thus and because I get sent away with 4 boxes of bloody codeine. Seemed a bit excessive. And then when I went in to pick it up, the Cancer Institute had faxed across their list of goodies. Dexamethasone to take before the chemotherapy and for 3 days afterwards. And then there's Maxilon to stop you from spewing, Vomitol or something like that to stop you from shitting, and bloody great big box of Morphicol to make you shit. And I didn't realise that. Okay. 152, 18 kilometres an hour, average speed. 6.3, yeah, that's about right. Don't want to stay there. Okay, rest against my leg then. Yeah, so I went in there with a sort of medication sheet from the oncology consultation. I passed this across to the pharmacist and I said, I'm supposed to have all of these things. And she looked at the list of drugs. Something to stop you spewing, something to stop you shitting, something to make you shit. She looks at it all and she says, "You're not going to take all these on the one day, are you?" I said, "Well, I don't know." they seem to think I might actually want to do exactly that. And she looked at me like I had two heads. So I showed her the evil twin sticking out the side of my neck. And I said, I'm going down the coast and they want me to mainline cisplatin, and they reckon it's got more flipping side effects and complications than you can poke a forky stick at. All of a sudden it made sense to her and she started listing them by memory. Pretty switched on sort of a pharmacist, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, I hope to be getting a bit obsessive about playing with my e-bike while down the coast. And I can't be any less fit because surprisingly I'm coming up the hill without a rest break halfway up. So maybe I'll be slightly less than utterly fucked by the joys of having my head cooked and getting 6 or 7 4-hour sessions of cisplatin IV. Okay, so now I get to give the bicycle a wash, or at least a sponge bath kind of sort of thing. I nearly pushed the friggin' thing up the rest of this hill. Right. Erg, 6.6 kilometres. 153 point nothing. Whew. There we go. Right. Well, I'll make myself a cup of the coffee. I suppose there is one more thing to do. I suppose I might as well show it to you. 38.5 volts. Because if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. Isn't that right? Eh? So, first we hose off the worst of the mud. Trying to sort of stay away from the motor. Not that it's really possible to stay away entirely. Thought I was going to need a brush, but that just dissolved and ran straight off. Okay. And now, pretty much just a matter of wiping it down with a wet rag. No particularly serious mechanical reason for doing this, except for the fact that while you're doing it, you'll quite likely notice and discover any sort of a mechanical problem that has been building up, otherwise undetected. In this case, I did in fact surprise myself with a loose, quick detachable fitting on my front wheel. No doubt, courtesy of all the bloody bumps on the Burilda Driveway. But anyway, I did in fact notice it and rectify it, and that's why, that's why the rear vision mirror is currently not on the bike, but rather it's in the cargo bags. You can't adjust the wheels while the bike's right side up. You have to turn it upside down, and you can't turn it upside down while the wing mirror, the rear vision mirror, is in place. Otherwise you will bugger the connection. Crazy they have to sell it with that. And that's the law, you've got to have a horn or a bell or something to try and warn the semi-trailers to get out of your way. Yeah. I think that is the theory. Okay, and now we give it another hose. After which the water should roll off it pretty good. And wash the dust out of the rag. Might even be able to wipe it down dry. Just enough water pressure to be useful, this hose. For small minor household tasks. $153 kilometres, eh? It only cost $6,500 to materialise the fantasy. Could do it for considerably less if you were using coal-fired electricity, because this is a dollar figure based on the theory that we include the cost of the solar panels and the lead acid batteries and the charge controller and inverter necessary to run the push bike's battery charger. And I suppose not everybody buys spare tyres and spare tubes and spare brake blocks, full set of high-vis clothing. But I figure if you're going to do an electric push bike fantasy and you're going to take it out there on the bloody public highway, you really might as well do it properly. And that way, if you do get run over, at least it won't be your own fault. You won't have been too bloody cheap to have a nice strong strobe light on it. Or too tight-fisted to have a decent helmet, or too bloody shy and retiring to have something that can be easily seen. And if you go out on the bitumen road trying to blend in with the horizon, and whose fault is it when you get skittled, eh? Whose fault would that be? You're going to blame the poor bugger who thought he was on a bit of open road and he could plant his foot and enjoy the sensation of pretending to be a racing driver? Or you're going to shoot the blame home to the idiot on a push bike who tried to blend in with the landscape? Well, I know who I'd be blaming. And it's not the poor bugger who runs into me, so I'll make it as hard as it possibly can be for him to fail to notice me. Yeah. Right. So, battery number 2 on charge. Lights lined up ready to get charged. Been going for nearly half an hour. 9 amps going in, 9 amps coming out. Looking at 13.4 volts. We're still on absorbed charge. 13.5 volts. I said 8.5 amps because half an amp goes to running the inverter to switch it on and run that. 114.75 watts down from 118 watts half an hour ago. So yeah, nearly 60 watt hours has gone in half an hour. So maybe not perhaps technically as useful as cutting and splitting firewood. Fact remains that the Discovery did have to have a wash before getting ready to be loaded into the daughter's car on Sunday. The time to wash it was obviously today, and surely why would you wash the thing without at least giving it one more opportunity to get dirty? Well, so it seems to me. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Such is life, eh? Ciao.